Hello and welcome back to FVC Season 6 Round 8 at the Portuguese Grand Prix at Portimao. 16 drivers joining us today, 15 of our regulars and one new debutee for Alfa Romeo in Joseph Hales. 18-minute qualifying as normal. Conditions look a little less than favourable, but are still dry for the time being. Rain could entirely be on the way though. The only way we can find out is to wait and see. Apologies for the quick pause menu. I have to change some stuff around on OBS. We do have cars heading out of the pit lane for both McLaren, Haas, and Ferrari as well, also in the background. FVC going to be the first car out on track. Very grey skies around. Hopefully the threat of rain stays at bay for the time being while some drivers get out and get their laps. Both the Red Bulls also on their way out with Apex and Houseman. 2 DRS zones on this circuit, one down half of the, or 2/3 of the start-finish straight, and another between turns 4 and 5. Number of drivers very eager to get on track. The threat of rain could entirely be a possibility. Of course, we do not have access to any of the weather forecast results here in the commentary view. Some just biding their time a little bit to get some of the rubber down on the track. Also heading out is going to be the AlphaTauri of Curly as well as Alfa Romeo of Joseph. Just behind is going to be what I'm pretty sure is the dot of a Williams. She rounds turn number 15, the long right-hand downhill as well. We'll jump on board with the McLaren of Alexi, riding on board for the first lap to see what the time sets are. Number of drivers have done practice, others not so much. Braking just beyond the 100-meter board. Fast right-hander on the way in, don't want to run too wide, otherwise your lap time is going to be getting invalidated. Then a hairpin, at turn number 3 for an uphill left-hander. Very easy to lose the rear end around turn number 4, the second DRS zone. Coming up just after that, and it's a little bit of a downhill as well, heading into another hairpin for turn 5. So again, it's straight up from the power, and another little rise before falling down just a little bit through at turn 8, or turn 7, sorry, and then heading into turn 8 up the top of the circuit. Portimao, very much known as a roller coaster of a track, as you can see from the elevation changes, especially through the late middle sector and into sector 3 as well. A very steep downhill for turn 11, 12, and into the uphill around 13. Trying to get the power on nice and early around the exit of 14, getting the line. Just keep it to the inside a little bit throughout turn 15 before extending to the left-hand side up the hill. And DRS wide open just after the crest. It's a 1:17.582 to set the pace for the Portuguese Grand Prix. Haas up next goes into pit lane. Ferrari coming across the line to start the lap. That's going to be Scarlett, and Mercedes also starting a lap just behind. The Red Bulls coming up next. Apex at 1:17.331 and Ben with a 1:16.939. Unsurprising that Houseman goes to the top of the table. Previous champion all the way back in Season 3, a very quick driver, not only in the FVC but in multiple other leagues around the community as well. Also starting a lap is going to be the other Mercedes just behind of what I'm presuming to be Eldorado, and indeed it is. Next car to finish up the lap is going to be the Alfa Romeo of Joseph. We're going to see purple middle sector for the debutee driver jumping on board around the final corner. It's not actually going to be Joseph, it's going to be Mulder on an out lap. Is the next car to head over the line. Might just get a bit of a slipstream from the Williams of Broughton up ahead, coming for the crest. Doesn't actually fall into slipstream, won't be getting anything from it. Goes second place, a 1:17.103. Second place provisionally, but only 4 cars with times on the boards as it stands. Oh, that's Ferrari up next, climbing up the hill to the start-finish line, going 5th place at 1:18.776. Definitely going to be again, that's not the lap time you want to be having here. D7 goes into 3rd place, a 1:17.196 for him. Timing sheet's already looking to be very close up near the second downwards position. Houseman currently in a bit of a league of his own, but there is, of course, some other drivers, namely of Mulder. We've yet to see what he can do. Last week's race winner, Alan, isn't going to be joining us tonight, but could be a little bit closer up at the front, especially if the conditions allow it to be. Medium compound tyre is an interesting choice for Mulder, especially in qualifying where you want absolute outright pace. It could be a strategy play for the upcoming race. Still goes into second place with a 1:17.003. Very impressive lap time indeed, especially on the medium compound tyre. But immediately does go invalidated on the next lap. Not going to be too much of a problem though, as battery charge is likely to be very low. Aston Martin up next to start an out lap for FE Pixels. Ferrari of Scarlett likely to be heading into pit lane, and the Haas of Blah starting an out lap. We'll go on board once again to see where he goes. 9 cars with times on the boards. Couple very surprising out of position, such as the bit of a spin there for the Ferrari up ahead of Scarlett. Hopefully didn't cause too much of a problem for Blah. Coming around turn 1, Ferrari gets a little bit wide, too aggressive on the inside curb, and the rear end doesn't hold through the corner. Back and forth in the lap, heading towards the middle of the second sector through turn 9 up to the top of the hill, turn 10. There's the yellow flags up ahead for a spun round. Williams, that's off the track, shouldn't cause any bother for Blah. Inside nicely round, turn 13 on the power. Pretty decently again. Once again, hits the apex nicely, possibly having a little bit of slipping on the rear of the car. Definitely going to be feeling that all the way down the straight from the Delta. Over the line, heads into 5th place provisionally, 1:17.281. Ferrari of Scarlett, next car to come across the line, doesn't seem to be moving up any positions at all. The second Ferrari of House and them yet to come out of pit lane as well. Apparently a message from Broughton saying he forgot to turn his ERS on for his lap. 1:17.951, about a second off the pace of pole time currently, so not a surprise that the ERS could lose you that much. Missing the toggle for ERS instead hitting brake bias. Pixels getting let by Joseph. Invalidated lap though for Pixels isn't going to be moving him up grid anywhere. Joseph potentially looking for a bit of a slipstream down the straight. He's not going to get one of those. Pixels dives into pit lane instead. We'll jump on board with the Alfa Romeo and go for a lap with him. Very far over the left hand side for turning into turn 1. Gets it done nicely though. A little bit off the apex for turn 2 for braking hard into turn 3. Once again, the slightest bit off the apex. Power down nicely. Keeps the turning consistent through the uphill turn 4. And I say purple first sector for the Alfa Romeo driver. Misses the apex by a fair margin down in turn 5. Gets on the power. It doesn't spin up the wheels. Turn 7 and a done nice. No problems there. Heading downhill through the left hand of turn 9. Lots of flat out corners. Could put a lot of wear through the tyres come the race. And of course, through qualifying, if you don't get your laps right, you could see yourself unable to move up. It's a proper middle sector now. Very likely to move up to the top of the timesheets with a lap like this. Yellow flags out in sector 1 for a spun round Ferrari at turn 2. Potential little bit of a lift heading towards turn 15. The engine revs just dipping a little bit, coming off this line. 1:16.603 is a provisional pole position. 3/10 ahead of Mulder. We'll see if the Red Bull driver responds, and it's not going to be on this lap, going into pit lane for new tyres and potentially fuel. Mulder is up next to respond, heading around for an outlap. Not going to get any slipstream down the straight either, and on the soft compound tyres for Mulder. Base differentials and how much grip is needed at this track. The soft compound could very easily be worth the 4/10 that he is looking for. But it's not going to be on this lap. Running out and validating immediately is going to do him no favours, and slowing down. The McLaren behind of Alexi is going to be next up. Might get a bit of a slipstream down the second DRS zone. Could be very beneficial, but a bit of a twitch coming up the top of the hill is not going to be doing her any favours. Got in lap just after turn 7, very easy to do with how high speed but aggressive the corner is. Pass off Liapper up next to start a lap. Navigates the first 2 corners with ease, heading around turn 3, gets it done with no bother uphill through turn number 4. Not having as many issues as some of the drivers potentially would be. Gets it in nicely for turn 5, still a little bit out from the apex of the corner. So on the track through turn 8, heading up left under of turn 9. Running down the hill and immediately back up again for another turn 10 and 11 duo, as it is purple middle sector for the Haas driver. Could be going very quick in this lap. As also into the 16th now is the Mercedes of D75, 1:16.916, putting him against Houseman and moving the Mercedes onto the front row. Decent exit out of turn 14 for Blah. Running up to the line, doesn't go all the way out to the left hand side up the hill and keeps it in the middle of the track. Doesn't improve any positions, stays in 5th with a 1:17.131. Also going for a lap just ahead is going to be the Red Bull of Apex. A Ferrari directly behind, considering Harrison M is still in pit lane. That's going to be Scarlett. However, Scarlett's had an issue behind. That dot is not moving. Very potentially had a spin up through a turn 4. Joseph retiring from the session. Original pole position for the Alfa Romeo driver. 4/10, not 4/10, 3/10 of attacking, sorry. Off a gap. Purple middle sector for Apex and the Red Bull. You can see how fast the battery is draining, especially around the last corner. Comes right over to the right hand side of the track, goes up into 5th place, a 1:17.023, only 20 milliseconds off the Alfa Romeo of Mulder. We're taking a interesting line through turn 1. Alpine of Sam Baker up next to start a lap, and up next to finish one is going to be the other Alpine of OJ, heading around the final corner, keeping in, but heading into pit lane. 1:20.502 for OJ. Not where you'd expect to be. Season not going well for Alpine so far. Drivers now just biding their time a little bit to the end of the session. Waiting for more rubber to be down. The best lap times do come at the end of the session. Hopefully the conditions will just stay clear for all of them. Yellow flags in Sector 2 for the McLaren, just moving a little bit slowly on her outlap. No issues to note for the Alpine of Simon's first lap. Essentially his only flying lap of the session. Going across the line, moving up to 8th place at 1:17.708. Puts him just a little bit ahead of Broughton. Broughton also out, setting another lap in a few minutes' time. Mercedes of Dorado out, nearly running off the track around turn 14's exit. 1:18.224 for Dorado to beat. Does move up to 10th place at 1:17.957. Aston Martin up next with Pixels on starting a lap. Also behind is Alexi, going to be starting a lap 2. And a number of cars coming out and getting ready. Traffic management will be an issue on this lap for some of the drivers. Pixels getting a bit too happy on the throttle coming out of turn 3. Spinning the rear just a little bit. Gets going though. Keeps it in a straight line. Mercedes duo are very close to each other and potentially might be giving each other some assistance. Yellow flags just ahead for a Mercedes. Going to have to be careful on that rejoin. Immediately dives off the road, gets out of the way of the charging Aston Martin. 1:18.396 for Pixels to beat. It's a purple middle sector, but it was taken away immediately by the Mercedes somehow. Both the Mercedes changing positions again. Couple of traffic problems for Pixels in the Aston Martin. Coming up around the final corner over the hill. Doesn't move up, stays in 12th place. Alexi now 7th place, 1:17 to beat. Does beat it at 1:17.138 for her. Only 6 milliseconds behind the Haas ahead. Up next to start a lap is going to be Mulder for Alfa Romeo. And up to finish the lap is going to be the Williams of Broughton. It's a 1:17.951. It should be very easy to beat. However, his battery doesn't look to be down much again. Only 8th place at 1:17.551. He might be looking at having another go. Red Bull next of Apex starting a lap. Houseman is already on a lap. 1:16.939 for him to beat. Battery is very low coming around the final corner. There's not long left in this session. And all drivers currently out for their laps. Up the hill. Goes in provisional pole at 1:16.324 for Houseman. Harrison then behind, starting up a lap. Might have the best track conditions of all the drivers. The session has just ended. He's times that perfectly for himself. However, he's got to be careful with the traffic. La does slightly improve at 1:17.119. Keeps him in 6th place provisionally. We'll see if that does him any favours come the end of the session. Ferrari of Scarlett up next. It's an invalidated lap though. That's going to be it. It's 13th place at best for her. Sass also off the road with an invalidated time. Not going to be doing anything. Up next, though, is going to be Mercedes, not Dorado, but of D7. 1:16.9. It's invalidated. He's going in. Alexi following in. Alfa Romeo of Mulder's up next. 1:17.0 to beat. Up across the line. Doesn't go quick enough. Sorry, but does enough to go into second. A 1:16.330. Red Bull of Apex up next across the line. 5th place provisionally for him. And moves to 4th at 1:16.850. AlphaTauri of Curly, the next car. Potentially the second to last one. Moves to 9th place. And Harrison M. Ferrari, his only lap of the session. Heading into 11th with a 1:17.926. Pole position once again for Houseman. Only 6 milliseconds behind is going to be Mulder, and the debut of Joseph in 3rd place. Red Bull completes the second row with Apex, and Mercedes and Williams take 5th and 6th. Notably a potential 16.6 for Scarlett on that lap that was invalidated at turn 1. Gonna have a lot of work for her to do, or a lot of work for her to do today. Broughton once again forgetting ERS. We did see how high that battery charge was at the end of the lap. The grid is set then, ahead of the Portuguese Grand Prix. Red Bull take pole along with Houseman, a 1:16.324 for him, and Mulder a 1:16.330. Alfa Romeo start off round number 2 with debut driver Joseph, and Apex completes it with a 1:16.850. D765 for Mercedes, a 1:16.916, alongside with Broughton forgetting to turn on his ERS on both flying laps, a 1:17.053. Blyapper and Alexi for Haas and McLaren take up row number 4, and Curly for Alpine, or not Alpine, AlphaTauri, sorry, is in 9th place. Alpine is in 10th with Sam Baker 47, followed by Harrison M in the Ferrari. 12th place goes to Eldorado for Mercedes, and 13th for FV Pixels. Invalidated turn 1 for Scarlett leaves her down in 14th, OJ English 15th, and Sass down in 16th place. Hello and welcome back to FVC Season 6. We're just back from a very hectic qualifying session at the Portuguese Grand Prix. Portimao hosts round number 8 of the season, and Houseman takes pole position. Mulder just behind, only 6 milliseconds separating the top 2, and the Alfa Romeo starting on hards, nearly spinning out of turn 3. Debut driver of Joseph, also on the hard compound tyre, is in 3rd place, and Apex, once again hard, starts in 4th. D75 for Mercedes in 5th place, and Broughton taking 6th place on the grid. Haas of Blya 5169 and the McLaren of Alexi will complete row number 4, and Curly 7 for AlphaTauri is in 9th. Sam Baker 46.7 starts the race for a bad showing for Alpine in 10th, and also a bad showing for Ferrari as Harrison M, their best driver, is down in 11th. 12th place goes the way of Eldorado 2009, 13th for FV Pixels, a couple of drivers getting themselves disqualified on the outlap, and 14th place after an invalidated turn 1 and a invalidated 16.6 for Scarly 42. That lap would have put her within the top 4 if I'm not mistaken. However, the invalidated laps do not count for anything. You've got to complete your lap fully within track limits the entire way. OJ English down in 15th place, and Saskia Moll down in the 2nd Aston Martin in 16th. Drivers going around the final corner, number on hards, number on mediums, and potentially a couple on softs. It's a varying strategy today. Portimao could be a very high wearing circuit on your tyres, but a safety car could be very beneficial if it comes out at the right time. Drivers making their way up to the grid. Shouldn't be too much longer before we get going for this race. The grid is set, the drivers are lined up. And see the lights from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights are on. Short hold his lights out and away we go. Going to be about an equal start up at the front for all the top 4 drivers. Red Bull might potentially be getting a bit of a better one as Apex looking to challenge into turn 1. Moving down a little bit. There's a spin though for Broughton and Apex, both of them, and the Dory car's out. Broughton out of the race, and another potentially as well. It's going to be a 5-second penalty for Simon Baker, and the virtual safety car is deployed immediately. Following on, a potential couple of illegal overtakes for the Ferrari of Harrison M. That was a very nasty incident at the start of the race. The Williams and Red Bull just coming together ever so slightly, as there's a number of things going on. Not quite sure what's happening on the live cameras. Not a good start for Broughton, and not a good start for Apex either. Not going to be able to defend for his championship leading teammate, or championship contending. VSC ending soon, hopefully. Not a good start either for Alexei, as back to green flag racing. The Alfa Romeos are immediately right on top of the Red Bull, and there's already a bit of a gap from the top three downwards. Blah has moved up to 4th place already. Might be getting a bit of an overtake though. D7 comes right back at him. Haas driver also going to be on the outside line, heading through turn 15. Not where you want to be. Falls back in line, defends his position from the cars behind. 133 to set the pace. However, that lap is under the safety car conditions. Alexei already in for a new front wing. Here comes Blah again. Have a look down the inside into turn 1. Don't want to beat the start of the race. Thankfully, it gets through. The AlphaTauri falling down the grid though, and falls curly. Pixel's making his way up to 7th place in the points for Aston Martin, as Salmon also into pit lane for Alpine. It's a very long stop for a number of cars. Charlie 42 in the Ferrari as well, already up to 8th place after starting outside of the points. Timing tower intervals are a little bit broken. Hopefully they will sort themselves out following in a couple of laps time. Cars seeming to spread themselves out just a little bit already. There's a spin, potentially collision between the Aston Martin and Ferrari of Sass and Harrison M, as a virtual safety car once again comes out. Front wing is gone from the Aston Martin as Scarlett and Dorado head into pit lane. The perfect position for them. Hopefully the VSC stays out long enough to, or they're hoping at least, the VSC stays out long enough for their positions and strategy to work out. To the top of the field, Houseman still leading the way, but both the Alfa Romeo are relentless in the pursuit. Just behind though, they've got to be careful if they start fighting. That Mercedes of D765 is still there, and it's a drive-through for speeding under the VSC for Joseph, and he's already lost position. He's lost 3rd. A blunder potentially at the worst of times for his debut drive. Drive-through penalties, you have to serve within 3 laps of getting them, and it must be served under green flag conditions as well. Might be looking at getting it done as early as possible, but it all does come down to dependent on your strategy. Going up to the right hand side, taking it immediately as soon as he can, while he waits for some of the other cars. It's purple final sector for D765. Mulder pulling out to the right hand side for DRS. Easy line that overtaking. D7's also going to be there. He's having a look at the inside. He's not going to make it though. Houseman just holding it out on the outside line. The hard compound tire somehow finding enough grip to allow that Red Bull to keep 2nd place. D7 does have the better tires at this stage. He's around. Mulder's round though. Top of the hill. He's lost the rear up turn 4. Lock up for Ben. He retains the lead of the race. Pixels 3 seconds for multiple warnings. D7 up to 2nd and Blad to 3rd. Mulder's not lost too many positions, but he's still down in 4th place. Might potentially get pressured by the AlphaTauri behind. A 120.832 for Alexei. Mulder hitting, or not Mulder, Ben, sorry, getting a little bit unstable over the top of the hill. 119.4 for Salmon on the soft compounds already. Some cars already committing themselves to a 2-stop early on in the race. Going to be DRS again for the Mercedes driver. Just going to keep it steady. He's gaining a little bit of time through the corner from both slipstream and more grip. Here he comes, pulling out to the right hand side, already gaining a lot before the DRS. He's going to move into the lead of the race, also behind. Mulder's going to get DRS on the pass of Blah. Alfa Romeo getting very close, getting past even before the corner, easily up into 3rd place for Mulder. Caution in Sector 2 as Sass is retiring from the race, and that's a full safety car deployed on lap 5. The third yellow flag period of the race already. Both Ferraris heading to pit lane, as is Joseph for Alfa Romeo. Ladies of Dorado heading past pit lane, as is the McLaren of Alexei. Now, of course, if you're on the hard tires at this stage in the race, you could extend your stint just a little bit and potentially go to the softs at the end. However, there's already a number of drivers have made stops. You can see nobody in currently the top 8 has, but there goes Houseman into pit lane for Red Bull. Very aggressive on the brakes, trying to get it slowed down. Also in is going to be Mulder, but Curly somehow gets ahead, moving into pit lane. Also in is going to be Pixels and OJ. E7 and Blah, the only 2 cars to stay out, apart from Apex. Excuse me. Top 3 all yet to pit. The rest of the field has done their mandatory stop, but a number of them will not make it to the end of the race. Both the Alpines on soft compound tires, meaning they will have to stop once again for the end of the race. Of course, with the way the positions are currently panned out, I do expect the Red Bulls to potentially swap positions pretty quickly when we get back to green flag. It's another pit stop for Scarlett in Ferrari. Another one to watch on the safety car restart could be Mulder, though. Medium compound tires, fresh ones at that. But down in 6th place, Curly directly ahead on the hard compound tires. But not too far behind is OJ, and if OJ can get past Pixels quick enough, he might be able to start challenging Mulder with the better compound tires. Six cars remaining to get up to the back of the field. We've already lost 2 cars, one at turn 1 and one only a lap or 2 ago. With the attrition rate so far in this race, there could be a very low amount of finishers and could be a number of more safety cars, potentially even a red flag at some stage in this race. Dorado 3 seconds for multiple warnings under safety car. Exceeding track limits could be a very, very simple thing to not do under safety car. Three cars remaining, both Ferraris and an Alpine. Depending on how quick they are to catch up, we might be going green at the end of this lap. However, it wouldn't surprise me if it gets extended to the end of next. Indeed it is. Oh no, we're going green at the end of this lap. That's a very late call. Going at the second to last corner. All cars did manage to get caught up. We'll jump on board with the Haas of Blah for this start. Both the Red Bulls behind, one on fresh tyres, but one on used hards. He's now up to D7 to control the pace, and he does go just at the timing line. The safety car is in pit lane. That's a very even start for everybody on the grid. Both the Red Bulls looking to get a bit of a better start there. Here comes Apex, simply catching up just a little bit. Has a look to the inside, thinks better of it. Backs out for turn 1. Not backing out, there's going to be an Aston Martin. From the looks of things, that look to be offline. Apex missing turn 1, falling off the road. And here comes Pixels having a challenge against Apex. Moving down the inside of turn 3. Having to hold the outside line through turn 4 though, but somehow does make it work. Joseph making it going 3 wide, heading towards turn 5. That's going to be very hard to make it work. Alpine on the inside, Ribble on the outside. They somehow make it without contact, but it's going to be Constantina at the back of the field. Mercedes running into the back of a car, as well as getting Alexi caught up in the McLaren. Keeping ahead. Up at the top of the field, Housen makes a move for second place, somehow gets it done down the inside of Blah. Up next on his radar is going to be D7. Mulder already clearing up into 4th place. Mulder moving up to 3rd place. DRS doesn't get enabled until the end of next lap. Here comes Houseman making a move at the lead. Going down the inside into turn 1, they're going to be about equal, but the worst line for D7. He has to back out of it to keep first cars on the track. Mulder up into 3rd, Blad down into 4th. Curly somehow holding 5th place, but Joseph right behind, putting as much pressure on the Alpha Tauri driver as he can. Pixels holding in 7th. OJ moved up to 8th place, and Apex fell down to 9th on the start from 3rd place. Ferrari's holding 10th and 11th, 12th place for Dorado. Ferrari's getting a bit caught up with each other, potentially into turn 5. Simon down in 13th place and Alexi in 14th. Ferrari swapping positions before turn 9. Scarlett moving up into 9th place, getting past the Red Bull of Apex. However, Apex coming charging around the corner. There goes Harrison M. He's fell down to 11th place. Dorado having a look around the outside. Could potentially get past as well. Apex trying to short back at Harrison M. Moving through turn 13. Ferrari keeping the better line for the final 2 corners on the track though. Dorado might even have got a better launch. He did get a better launch. Alexi 3 seconds for multiple warnings. Moving over there for Apex in front of the Mercedes. Spin for both of those drivers down at the bottom of the grid. Houseman a 1:19.307. DRS gets enabled. Mulder is up to 2nd place and he's within a second. Very unfortunate late move from the Red Bull of Apex, causes both of those cars to fall down to the back of the grid. Joseph taking a look at any way you can get past that Haas that you can. Have a look to the left hand side. That gap was not open enough for the Alfa Romeo to fit through. Gets a better launch up at the top of the circuit, heading down turn 10 and 11. So back out through 13, but will get the DRS down the straight as long as he can keep this position and stay within a second of the Haas, and he very easily does. They've got an equal launch there for the Alfa Romeo and the Haas. 2 tenths between them. Joseph already gaining all the way through turn 15, moving to the right hand side of the circuit. Last got nowhere to go. He can't defend, and there will be DRS for the Alfa Romeo, easily starting to breeze ahead. More than likely, but somehow that Haas is staying there. Also having DRS from the Mercedes in front. Just hold the inside line now. He's going to easily get past into turn 1. Haas has to concede position or cause an accident. There's not many places you can go. Early having a look at the inside of Blah through turn 3. Pit lane once again for Apex. Hunt is on up the top of the field. Alfa Romeo trying to find a way past D7, but first you got to catch up to the car in front of you, and there's still 3/10 of a second worth of the gap. However, he's definitely going to be looking at making the same type of move that he did against Blah, but it's going to be a lot easier this time around for him, as the Mercedes has no hope of getting DRS on the Alfa Romeo of Mulder. Rounding the final corner, down the hill and up another one. DRS wide open for the Alfa Romeo. Here it comes, starting to gain all the way down to turn 1. It's not going to be much gains, but it's going to be on the inside line once again for Alfa Romeo, and it's easily going past into the podium positions once again, back to where he started. Here comes D7 now, having a look down the inside in retaliation through turn 3. Somehow does keep it there. Joseph staying ahead. Turn 4 now. D7 has the better line. There's another DRS zone right here. And D7 will have it down to turn 5. Joseph holding the inside line. Going too wide into the corner, just keeping ahead. D7 going for the switchback move. Gets a better launch off the corner. But the better acceleration from the Alfa Romeo easily keeps it ahead. As long as D7 now can keep it within a second, he can do the same thing that the Alfa Romeo did to him through the start-finish straight and turn 1, but he still got the job of keeping it there. He's already lost 6/10 of a second. 3-second penalty for curling, multiple warnings. D7 continuing to lose time now, 8/10 of a second. He's got one corner to keep it within a second. And from the looks of it, he does ever just manage, or potentially it might have just fell outside of a second. And it did. He's heading into pit lane. Scarlett trying to find a way past OJ for 4th place. Dorado with 3 seconds for multiple warnings. Here comes Scarlett down the inside, heading through turn 3 of the Alpine. The Alpine is on softs though, can keep it there. Somehow the cars don't touch each other through turn 4. DRS wide open for OJ, diving down the inside. Scarlett's going to be seeing flashbacks all the way to Season 5. And Alpine moving down the inside of turn 5 has caused issues before. This time it doesn't cause any such problems. Of course, previous winners here back in Season 5 was Adorote for Alpine. Season 4 was Scarlett 42. Adoro not on the grid anymore. Scarlett trying to make a win for Ferrari, or at least a podium position. Not been a great season for either Ferrari driver so far. Could be improved. Essentially, we are not yet halfway point of this race. There is still a huge amount of things that could happen. Moving up to the top of the field, Mulder slowly closing that gap against the Red Bull of Houseman. Taking a wider line through turn 3. That's going to lose him a lot of time, as the gap moves up to 8/10 of a second. Second Alpine of Simon, a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. Bit of a lockup there for Houseman heading into turn 5. Dorado a 3-second for multiple warnings. That's up to 9 seconds for the Mercedes driver now. We'll keep an eye on the gaps at the top of the field as well as the battle for 4th place. However, down now for 6th place. Currently going between 3 cars. We'll get the DRS on Curly ahead in the AlphaTauri, gaining all the way, but it's not going to be gaining enough. Does have to keep it in line. Curly running off the road through turn 1. The AlphaTauri looking very unstable through the corner. Running wide as well through turn 3. Law's going to be there, easily moving up before turn 4. Harrison M's going to be looking, trying to make the same move as well. He's going to have DRS through the next section, but so is the AlphaTauri ahead, and he's not going to be close enough. And he's going to be a madman to dive from that distance. Does get the bit of launch out of the corner, though, pressuring the AlphaTauri just ahead of him. Very close, almost contact between the two drivers. It's quite a large sizable mistake there from Harrison M, falling back just a bit from the battle just ahead. Half second up at the top of the field, not going to be enough into turn 1. That's down to 0.3 of a second now. Jumping over to Mulder, still in the hunt against that Red Bull ahead. Bit of a twitch on the rear of that car heading through turn 3. And again, a bit of a twitch through turn 4. That could just be the opening that Mulder needs. DRS open for the second time. He's going to be gaining all the way. Not going to be close enough to make a dive this time. But lock up once again there for Ben, heading through turn 5. Mulder looking a lot more composed. The only mistake he's made so far in this race is that spin at the early stages through turn 4, but now he's on the hunt for the lead, and he could just be, if he keeps it here, close enough to make a move, maybe into turn 5 on the next lap. However, that gap is sort of stabilizing around 5 to 7/10 of a second. So we're getting DRS once more. A bit of a better line from around the final corner. Smoother on the tyres, will be a bit kind between DRS now, wide open heading towards turn 1. That gap will fall all the way into about 0.3 of a second before having to slow down and extend it just a little bit more. Ben having a better time through the more twisty sections of the track, picks up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. Red Bull a lot more composed this time through turns 3 and 4. Gap staying just ever so slightly enough for Ben to stay ahead while keeping Mulder in the DRS zone. Lexi and Sam Baker into pit lane again, as is Blah and Haas, falling to 10th place. That will promote D7 back up to 9th. Still not in any position that he would want to be in, considering where he was running earlier in the race. And once again, the cycle starts between these two drivers. Gap of a second, or gap at 0.7 of a second. Start of the DRS zone falling all the way down to 0.4 at the end of the DRS zone. Ben having a better time through the more turns this track has. The Alfa Romeo easily faster in a straight line. OJ another 3-second for multiple warnings. Down to 6th place. Harrison getting ahead of Curly into turn 1. Curly could be having a look, having a go back at him, especially into turn 5. He did get a better launch off of the corner. DRS wide open. That AlphaTauri is gaining massively down the inside. They're going to be too wide heading into the corner. Harrison staying ahead as the outside line to go, though. Curly gets unstable on the power and won't be able to make anything happen off of the corner. Pixel's a 3-second for multiple warning, up to 9 seconds now for him, tying with Eldorado, who's still down in 14th place. Ben is now pulling away from Mulder in second place. The gap about 9 tenths of a second at the DRS zone and only falling to just under 7 tenths. Tires for the Red Bull driver could just be lasting a bit longer than those on the Alfa Romeo. And of course, as Ben leads, it allows him to control the race just a bit better. Speaking of, having a look at the map, there was a potential mistake, and that gap did go down to 4 tenths of a second temporarily. Dorado another 3 second for multiple warnings. Up at the top is definitely starting to extend. Was 9 tenths per second, is now 8 as Mulder's straight line speed does start to catch up again. However, this can only go on for so long between these two. Both drivers looking to be on the medium compound tyres. They should last about equal. Joseph into pit lane for Alfa Romeo concedes 4th place, maybe even 5th and potentially 6th and 7th. Moves Scarlett up into the podium positions after starting near the back of the grid. Ghost might even be losing 7th to Pixels. And it might be a race out of pit lane for D7. Indeed, it is easy able to get ahead. That puts the Alfa Romeo driver down to 9th place. The gap was 6 seconds or so between Mulder and Joseph, so that should put the top two, if they decide to head into pit lane again, around 6th to 8th, depending on the type of stop they have. Baker for Alpine disconnecting from the session. They're able to get back in soon enough. Scarlett into pit lane as well. Move Harrison M into 3rd place provisionally. Also into pit lane is an Alpine of OJ. Pixels gets passed up to 5th place. Curly in 4th. New mediums for the Ferrari driver. Gap is now closing once again, and this time it is swinging in favour of Mulder, who's now only 6 tenths of a second behind, down to 5 temporarily. That gap is getting very low, but Ben's pulling off into pit lane. Mulder will inherit the lead of the race. And now it's going to be a race out of pit lane for Ben. Hopefully it's going to be the right time, the Red Bull team thinks. They do not want to be getting caught up in traffic any more than they need to be, because it could ruin their chances at winning the race. That Red Bull car is already moving. However, here come the second Ferrari, which is going into pit lane. The AlphaTauri is staying out though. Simon getting back into the race. Curly moves up into 2nd place on the hard compound tyres. Ben's not going to lose any more positions than he needs to. Also, the pig group heading towards turn 1. Pixels has to fall down to 6th place. D7 up to 4th and Joseph into 5th. Ferrari of Scarlett's not going to be that far behind them. Second Ferrari of Harrison M coming out of pit lane at turn 1, falling to 12th place. Might have got a bit risky there with the Ferrari Sorry, the McLaren of Alexei, who just gets it wrong through the corner. But also getting it wrong, here goes House and M off the road. Very far distance. Somehow gets it all back and collected. Mulder into pit lane, and a 5-second penalty for speeding is going to be the last thing that he wants for this race. Houseman will be motivated to try and get up there and get ahead. That 5-second penalty does put the race even more in his favour, though. It all depends on the ending stint and what happens. There is still another 10 laps to go in this race. Another 11 laps, sorry. Curly and Hurst leave the race. Mulder coming out of pit lane on the right hand side. Ben does get ahead and head quite a margin. Ben was setting a very fast lap there coming out of the pits. Now both of them have to contend with the AlphaTauri that is leading the race. As it stands, however, it should be dispatched without too much problem. Indeed it is. Houseman easily getting ahead of the AlphaTauri into turn 5. Another lockup though into the corner. He's going to be wearing out his tires very quickly if he doesn't get that pulled together. Mulder up next to get past the AlphaTauri, and it is caught in the worst possible place. Not easy to let a car get past at this section, not easy to even pass at this section. Mulder having to just back out of numerous moves. He's going to have to get by on the straight. That's lost him a lot of time, 3 seconds worth of time. Has looked to the inside. Curly maybe blocking out ever so slightly. Curly does want to get to pits eventually. Houseman at 1:18.741, new fastest lap of the race. And Mulder moves up into second after that prolonged fight with the AlphaTauri. .8 seconds, 3 seconds now, even as Alexei, a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings, puts her up to 6 seconds total. 15 seconds for Dorado at the back of the grid. And a 5-second additional for speeding in pit lane, from bad to worse there for the McLaren driver. OJ gets past Pixels for P7 into turn 5. Apex trying to hunt his way back up the field. Currently in 11th, one car stands between him and the points, and he is trying his best to get past it. Curly now falling victim to Joseph in the second Alfa Romeo fight for third place. As it stands, Curly has fell outside of the podium positions. It's going to be a very easy DRS overtake for Joseph. No drama there, not going to get held up through the ending stages of the lap as much as Mulder did. And both the Alfa Romeos back into the podium positions on lap 25. E7 into pit lane again. Pixels and Blah fighting for E7. Blah having a better line, a much better line, as Pixels basically concedes position to the Haas driver. Apex into pit lane again. A retirement for Alexei, the car off at turn 1. Doesn't seem to be any safety car coming out. It gets cleared away with no drama. It's going to be the end of a weekend for McLaren. Two DNFs in a row, not even seeing the end of lap 1 last week. There's also a spin out at turn 1 for Dorado down in 13th place. Cars are slowly starting to spread out just a bit. If there's anyone that you want me to ride on board with, to anyone following along the live chat, shout them out. And I will follow along with them. Dorado, another 3-second for multiple warnings. Note from Alexi saying that her pedals disconnected. And that's why she went off into turn 1. Unfortunate string of events there. However, same thing, or a similar thing, happened to Mulder last week in France, apparently, where his brakes stopped working near the end of the race. Or so the official story goes. Charlie 42 now catching within a second of the AlphaTauri of Curly. Hospital launch for the Ferrari, heading to the outside into turn 7. Better grip from the mediums and easily proving to get ahead of the AlphaTauri. Also moving it through the field is going to be D7, trying to get the on-track pass against the Alpine. That's very late in the break, so for the Mercedes driver, nearly running to the back of the Alpine. And I'm also having a go against Pixels, moving on the outside of turn 9. Hard compounds for Pixels, not having as much grip. Mulder a 1:18.432. The gap at the top has came down by a second. But there is not long remaining in the race. 5 laps remaining. Joseph a 3-second for multiple warnings. The Alfa Romeos are clear of the Ferrari of Scarlet behind. D7 moving past the Alpine of Salmon for P10. Now back in the points for the Mercedes driver. Pixels 3 seconds for multiple warnings. Salmon's with the DRS, so it's coming straight back at D7. Moving ahead before turn 1. 3-second for multiple warnings. Initially a bit of a move there for Salmon, as D7 has to move off track to try and keep his front wing intact. D7 seeming a lot more confident on the brakes than the Alpine ahead of him. DRS making the overtake quite simple, however Salmon is still there and even catching up despite the DRS assistance for the Mercedes. Gap at the top of the field is now only 1.5 seconds. It's going to be 4 laps remaining for Mulder to get 5 seconds. At the rate he's catching, it's not going to be enough. But still, there is a lot of things that can happen within the last 4 laps of a race. People getting more desperate for positions could cause a number of incidents. You could even make a mistake of your own, thinking you're a bit too comfortable for the end of the race. Mercedes duo finding each other on track, but one is a lap down from the other. D7 still trying to get the slipstream off of a ghosted car. Is not going to do much for him. Completely out of battery, 0% there for the Mercedes. Harrison now trying to catch up to the Haas of Blah. 3-second penalty in effect for Harrison coming to the end of the race. Dorado another 3 seconds for multiple warnings. Four-tenths of a second is the gap, coming down to 3/10 for the DRS zone, and now it's going to be moving the opposite direction as Harrison then gets ahead into turn 1 against the Haas. The DRS making the take very easy for the Ferrari driver. Law knows what he needs to do to keep the 7 by the end of this race is stay within 3 seconds of that Ferrari, and there's not long left to do it. Only 2.5 laps remaining for him to stay there. However, he is falling back at a considerable rate, already 0.6 of a second. However, that gap is down to 0.5. It's even falling down a little bit through some of the corners. We'll jump back to that fight as these two moving around the final corner. Houseman a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings now. That could just be the break that Mulder needs if he can keep his rate of catching up, but it isn't. He has fell to 1.7 seconds. OJ not able to keep as much speed as he would have hoped, not able to get past the AlphaTauri for 5th. And he is carrying more penalties. Blah just staying there a bit more. DRS helping him all the way to the end of this race. 1.6 seconds is the gap up at the top of the field. D7 getting past Pixels for P9 into turn 1. Simon a 3-second for multiple warnings up ahead is OJ and Curly fighting each other. Continuing to fight, heading through turn 5. Then up through 6, 7, and 8, now heading through turn 9. Gaps are extending once again, the race coming to a close, the final lap of the race. Only 2 cars are in within a second of each other, the 7th and 8th of Harrison M and Bly. Another 3-second penalty for Effie. Pixels up to 15 seconds for him now. We'll keep an eye on this gap, but I don't see it coming down much more. Up at the top of the field, a very dominant showing from Houseman. Under pressure a few times. Very, very much in control at others. Rounding the final corner is going to be another race win for the Red Bull driver up the top of the hill. He wins the Portuguese Grand Prix. Mulder comes home in 2nd place for Alfa Romeo, and the debut of Joseph, also for Alfa, will take the final podium position. Rounding the final corner now, Scarlett 42, a 4th place finish. Very commendable effort from her. OJ in the Alpine will come home for 5th place ahead of the AlphaTauri of Curly. Curly will get 5th on penalties. Blah does get 6th on penalties, and Harrison M falls to 7th place. OJ will come in 8th after all the penalties applied, as Mulder leaves the session, gets counted as a DNF, however, did cross the line in 3rd place. D7 does take 9th, and Salmonbeck will get the final points in 10th place. A day to forget for some, and very much a day to remember for others. Scarlett 42 does get the in-game driver of the day. However, the app will be up very, very soon. Code is on screen now. We can review all the results from previous seasons, all the results from this season, and all the results from our Forza site as well. Formula Companion app is available on all app stores, whether you're on iOS, Android, or any other platform. Commanding race from Houseman 212E. He wins another time in the FVC. 2nd place goes to Mulder, and 3rd place, although it's not shown here, will be going the way of the debut driver of... Have I already forgotten his name? 3rd place goes to the Alfa Romeo of Joseph, I'm pretty sure his name is. My apologies for forgetting immediately 10 seconds after. Indeed it is. 1st place goes the way of Houseman. 2nd place goes to Joseph Hales. 3rd place does go the way of Mulder. He did leave after the session, does get counted as a DNF, falling down the grid. And 3rd place for Joseph. Scarlett 42 will take 4th, Curly 7 in 5th. 6th goes to Blah, 7th to Harrison M, 8th for OJ English, 9th for D7, and 10th place goes to Apex, scoring the final point. Simon Baker misses out on points playing positions by half a second thanks to his 6-second worth penalties. Pixels come home in 12th place. 13th goes to Dorado. 14th for Alexi. 15th for Sass. And 16th for Broughton, not even making it past turn 1.